We're going to recap the story in just a few moments. Stay with CNN.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Well, I mean,
See, right about now, we have to.
I was looking at these. I've seen
The privilege of working with this.
Whoa.
Videotape shot by a tourist overnight about 1:20 this morning in Atlanta's Centennial Olympic Park, where a bomb exploded. And as you can see, the chaos, the tragedy, and now at this hour, live pictures from Centennial Olympic Park, where investigators are trying to figure out exactly what happened, who planted a bomb in that park, and why. Good morning to our viewers. I'm Joey Chen at the CNN Center across the street from the Centennial Olympic Park as you look in on these pictures of the scene there.
I'm Miles O'Brien. We thank you for joining us. 2 people are confirmed dead, more than 100 injured in what the FBI suspects was a pipe bomb. The device was placed at the base of a temporary tower in the park at the AT&T Global Olympic Village. The site is about 5 miles from the Olympic Village where the athletes live. No one at that village was injured.
As you can see from the amateur videotape shot by a San Francisco tourist, Robert G., there was an explosion during a music concert that was being held in the park. The blast occurred about 1:20 Eastern Time. Police had been alerted to a suspicious package, and they had begun to try to evacuate many of the people in the area when the bomb went off. Eyewitnesses describe exactly what happened next.
I've never heard anything that loud before. I mean, my ears were ringing for like 15 minutes. I mean, it was painful. I mean, it was so loud. And she was to my right, so I mean, you know, everything was coming from the right. And I heard this you know, explosion, and we thought it had something to do with the, you know, with the concert. You know, we thought it was some sound effects or something. And then we just stopped and thought, you know, that was a bomb. You know, that was something that went off and everything. And then you saw people, you know, and the security said, get out of the park. You know, but then there were some people that was just laying on the ground. And we ran. We just ran because I wasn't, you know, I mean, I wasn't trying to see if there was any, you know, any other bomb around.
And the only reason why you weren't hurt is because Josette here was standing to the side of you.
She was sitting to the right of me. And, you know, if she wouldn't have been sitting there, yeah, she had jeans on, but if she wouldn't have been sitting there, I mean, it would have, you know, it would have got me. And when it got on her side, that was, you know, close to, you know, would have been even closer to me, but I mean, she got...
metal went right through my jeans. It went right through my jeans.
Yeah, that's how powerful it was.
Did you see
Into my skin.
Did you see a lot of other people fall?
Yeah.
I saw some people fall. I saw metal flying everywhere. I had metal on me. And I saw smoke, and it was very loud explosion.
I mean, we were literally
stuff
picking the metal
small pieces of metal going everywhere.
Clothes.
I'm sorry, you were?
I said we were literally picking the metal out of her, you know, pulling them out of her jeans. It was just, I mean, that metal, when it exploded, just the metal just flew everywhere. Full force. It was,
I mean, it shot right at me.
Olympic officials held a press briefing a few hours ago to answer the obvious question on many people's minds: how will this affect the remainder of the Games?
We at the International Olympic Committee are all, with our hearts and thoughts, with the families of the victims of the tragic incident which occurred tonight. The International Olympic Committee expresses its deepest sympathy to all these people, all these families, and all their friends. I came now to state the decisions which have been taken during the night after numerous consultations with the top senior officials of the International Olympic Committee, ACOG, and all other concerned agencies. These decisions are as follows. First of all, the Games will go on. I repeat, the Games will go on. As I speak now, everything from the operational standpoint is ready. Buses are rolling, the athletes have been notified, and the Games today will go on. The second decision is that we will observe a moment of silence in the memory of the victims at all venues today. And the third decision taken by the IOC is that all Olympic flags will be lowered today at half-mast.
The words of International Olympic Committee member Francois Carrard speaking with reporters earlier this morning, telling them that the Games would go on even after that blast that occurred about 1:20 Eastern Time this morning. And of course, after that event occurred, the wounded people, as you saw in the videotape, flooded into the Atlanta hospitals. Hunks of flying metal and debris caused dozens of cuts, many flesh wounds, some more serious injuries as well. 2 people were killed. The emergency rooms were busy as ambulance after ambulance delivered the injured. The hospital closest to the site, Grady Memorial Hospital, Atlanta's big public hospital, implemented its emergency plan. CNN medical correspondent Andrew Holtz now joins us live from Grady Memorial with the latest there. Andrew?
What we're finding out right now is more about the gentleman who died. He apparently was a member of the Turkish television press corps. A friend of his is speaking now with reporters, and he said that his friend, the gentleman who died, apparently suffered a heart attack after the explosion. So it's not clear that he was actually hit by debris or otherwise injured directly by the blast. But apparently the stress or whatever, we're not sure yet exactly what happened, but that he did succumb to a heart attack shortly after the explosion at 1:15 in the morning. Now, the response here at Grady Hospital occurred right after that explosion. Ambulances rushing in, family members coming in along with the patients. They had about 35 come in here. The Turkish gentleman who died was in his middle age. He apparently died on the way to the hospital. They had one other middle-aged man who is in critical but stable condition after surgery, had one other person who was operated on for some serious wounds, and then they have 2 to 3 other people who apparently may be going into surgery. They may have already done that for less serious wounds, right? You know, some pieces of shrapnel or other things that they want to take care of in an operating room, but are not considered life-threatening injuries. So right now, there's one of the fatalities came here to Grady Hospital, and there's one man who is still in very critical condition, but is stable at this time. The family members were gathered together in an auditorium, and they were told, apparently kept in touch with hospital staff. People would come in and tell them what was going on. We spoke with a Willie Peters of Marietta, Georgia, whose mother-in-law, Virginia Mitchell, was wounded in the back by shrapnel. He said he was there with his 5 children, his wife, and his mother-in-law. They heard a bang. They thought it was part of the music show that was going on at the time, and then his mother-in-law said that she was hurting. So they brought her here and initially put her in critical condition because apparently she has some other heart problems, so they're very worried about her. But he says that Ms. Mitchell is now in fine shape. She's been taken care of, heavily sedated. He said that the children are afraid now to go to any of the Olympic events that they won't have tickets for. So the psychological trauma is already settling in here. The hospital has offered counseling. We've seen members of crisis response teams going in to talk to them or coming out. And Mr. Peters said that he thought the hospital responded well, kept them informed, and as far as the reaction, it's still settling in. He doesn't want this to be seen as a black mark on Atlanta. But we have Mr. Peters is right behind us now, and we may be able to get him to come over here. He again was, this is Willie Peters, who was with his 5 kids. Okay, apparently we are going back now to Joey. This is Andrew Holtz reporting live from Grady Hospital.
All right, Andrew Holtz, thanks very much. Our medical correspondent, Andrew Holtz, is standing by at one of the hospitals in Atlanta where many of the injured are being treated. We want to bring our viewers up to date and show you exactly what happened overnight as best as we can depict it for you. This is an incident that occurred in Atlanta's Centennial Olympic Park about 1:20 this morning. A tourist, Robert G. of San Francisco, the San Francisco Bay Area, was in the park at the time when an explosion took place very close to a stage where entertainment was going on. Let's look.
About the worth.
See, right about now, we have
I was looking at these.
we have the privilege of working with this.
Whoa.
That videotape was shot by San Francisco tourist Robert G., who joins us now in the studio. Mr. G., can you tell us what you were doing in the park at that time and what took place?
We were just wandering around the park, listening to the concert at that time, in the middle of a crowd, and I was filming the crowd to watch people dancing and the interactions, things like that. It just caught us all by surprise, I think.
In that moment before, was there any warning to you? Did you hear anybody saying clear the area?
We saw a few policemen run by us, pulling along a plastic garbage can on wheels. I really didn't think anything of it at the time, perhaps garbage detail, perhaps settling an incident that occurred among the crowd or something.
Our viewers just saw again that explosion on the videotape that you shot early this morning. When you first heard that blast, did you realize what had happened?
Not in the first half second. I mean, the first thing is pyrotechnics. Okay, the second thing is that's too big to be pyrotechnics, and I think that's when everyone's jaw just dropped. And we all just started looking around to figure out what to do next.
I guess I might have expected that more people would be running immediately afterwards, but it took a moment for people to realize.
Right, and nobody ever really ran that much. It was more like a school exit for a fire drill. People were very orderly. They were all moving away. There were a few people that tried to run up and take pictures.
You and your wife were not injured in this?
No, we were fortunately very far away from this.
Can you tell me the level of explosion? I don't know how far away you were. I can't really tell by that videotape.
My estimation is 100, 150 yards away. The level of the explosion was like an earthquake. The ground just shook once, just an incredible pounding.
Did you feel it internally? I mean, were you rattled physically by it?
Yes, yes. It just felt like the ground itself just kind of moved up and down slightly.
And then what happened afterwards?
After that, once we realized what was going on, we pretty much just stayed where we were. I think a lot of us did. More and more people started just making the way to the exit away from the center of the blast there. Like I said, a few people started running up with the cameras and all that, but the policemen came in very shortly after that and started blockading the area in an ever-widening circle.
Talk to me about what goes through your own mind as you feel something like this, as you realize you are now just a part of the news. Hysterical, upset, angry, what?
I think the first thing is just logic. You run into this and it's like, my God, this has happened. What do we do next? Is there going to be more danger? Do we have to run a certain direction? Is it best to stay where we are and not get trampled? Fortunately, I think everyone kept their mind and walked away, and so there were fewer accidents just from the evacuation.
As a tourist visiting that area, were you surprised before this happened? Were you surprised at the level of security in the park? Did you feel that you were able to walk maybe too freely?
I don't think so. A lot of times our bags are being searched as we walked into venues. For the park here, they were checking just for basically beverages, things like that. They weren't searching bags at the time, but really there was so many people going in and out of the park, I don't think it would have been viable.
Robert G., we thank you for joining us this morning. We'll ask you to stand by so we can talk to you further throughout this morning. Of course, our viewers seeing the videotape that you shot, getting a better understanding as investigators are trying to this morning about exactly what happened and why. Miles?
U.S. swimmer, four-time gold medalist Janet Evans was being interviewed by German TV near the site of the explosion. Let's take a look at that tape one more time, and we'll bring Miss Evans in to describe what she saw and heard.
All the time, I didn't want to be another person.
And nobody's bothering you, right?
Well,
We thank you for joining us live here, Miss Evans. First of all, is that the first time you've had a chance to see that tape?
I have seen it numerous times this morning, and the most terrible thing for me was hearing it, because you can see it, but to hear the sound of the bomb, I think, is the most horrifying thing. And someone played it to me on a radio this morning, and it was horrifying.